What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazik of The Fight Guys, and I'm also a Forbes contributor. And let's talk about the middleweight division. We've been talking about that quite a bit on the channel, and hopefully everybody is enjoying the content, enjoying the interviews. It's myself, Brian Mazik, and Peter Khan. We're Fight Guys, and we're also fellow Forbes contributors, and trying to put together some of the best boxing content that you can find on YouTube. But as I said, let's talk about the middleweight division. Specifically, I want to talk about what I think, and I talked about this already on another channel, but I want to focus really deep on this division. The best fight to make in the middleweight division right now, is, in my opinion, is Jermall Charlo against Demetrius Andrade. I mean, I know a lot of people think, especially if you're more of a casual fan, and even some people who are not casual fans are probably thinking, yeah, we know Canelo Alvarez, Gennady Golovkin, that's the fight I want to see. I want to see that third fight. I understand that. It makes sense. Some people may even say, oh, I want to see Canelo against Charlo, or I want to see Canelo against Andrade, or I want to see Golovkin against one of those two guys. But let me just kind of break this down. Canelo has had ample opportunity to fight Jermall Charlo and Demetrius Andrade if that's what he wanted to do. At the end of last year, after he beat Golovkin in September, he chose to go up to 168 to fight Rocky Fielding. Okay, now this year, can't argue at all with choice to fight Daniel Jacobs. That was a good fight, solid fight to have, made sense. Daniel Jacobs had won a legitimate world championship, so it made sense. But at some place in there, if he had chosen to fight Andrade, who's on the zone, even though he's with Matchroom, he's on the zone, he could have fought him at any time for the WBO title. And then, of course, Jermall Charlo was the interim WBC champion, while Canelo was the WBC regular champion or world champion. He was recently elevated to the franchise champion by Mauricio Suleiman, and so now Charlo's the legitimate world champion in the division. He just beat Brandon Adams. So the thing of it is why is it that Canelo hasn't fought those guys? Some people might suggest that he's avoiding them. I mentioned in an interview I did, I mentioned in a video I did previously, I'd interviewed Canelo before, and he didn't even want to really mention Charlo and Andrade's name. Like, they didn't even exist, right? And so you got to wonder, is this a situation where they're managing risk and reward? Are they looking at Charlo and Andrade and saying, oh, these guys could be tough fights for Canelo, but they don't have a big enough name for this to be a significant enough of an event, so we're not even going to worry about it. We're not going to think about it. We're going to keep our eyes focused on big fish, or we're going to keep our eyes focused on fighters who we can fight who maybe don't have a big name, but they're in a higher weight class, so we can say, oh, well, Canelo went up to these different weight divisions and won titles as well. That's one way to look at it. If you look at it from the Golovkin standpoint, and why I think that the middleweight division kind of needs to move on from both of them, is Golovkin, more than being interested in winning the middleweight title back, it seems to me Golovkin's more interested in fighting Canelo again, which I totally get it. Makes sense. But one thing I would say is that Canelo and Golovkin, that third fight doesn't have to happen in middleweight. It could happen at 164, which is where Golovkin just fought Steve Rose. It could happen at 168. It could even happen as high as 175. So, and I don't think it would be a major stretch or odd thing at all. So I do think that you're in Golovkin's best interest if it takes place at a higher weight class, but we'd have to see. But I think that Golovkin can get what he wants. The zone can get what they want. Golden Boy can get what they want from an overall standpoint in terms of how large the event would be. That can all happen, and it doesn't have to happen in middleweight. And both of those guys can move on and allow for Charlo and Andrade to step in there and become the face of the division. All these guys do is just keep winning. Charlo just drove his record to 29-0 by beating a very game Brandon Adams. Prior to that, he didn't look great, but he still beat Matt Korobov. I think part of the reason he didn't look so great in there is because he was literally bothered by the fact that his twin brother Jermall had dropped a controversial decision earlier in the night to Tony Harrison. But Charlo rebounded, looked great against Adams, and that was a really strong fighter. So I thought that was a very good performance. On the same night, Demetrius Andrade beats Machi Selecki in a complete whitewash. Just blew him out, ran his record to 28-0. The thing about Andrade is that Andrade is not a talker. He's not a self-promoter. He's trying to be more of that now, and we'll probably talk to him sometime shortly to just kind of get his take and where how he feels about things right now in terms of the division. We'll get hopefully we'll get a take from him, but he's not a major self-promoter, but he is, in my opinion, one of the best fighters in this division, maybe top 2 or 3. And I think the only way he gets a chance to prove that is if he gets in the ring with Charlo, because I don't think a fight with Canelo is realistic at this point. Both of these guys are in their prime. Charlo's 29, Andrade's 31 years old. They're both operating at an extremely high level. I think the middleweight division needs a new look, and Canelo and Golovkin are going to have to step aside for that to happen. Canelo and Golovkin no longer need the 160-pound division, but there are some people that still do, and I think it's best for boxing if Charlo and Andrade settle who's the best fighter at 160. I appreciate you watching as always. God bless and peace.